The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. On leaving the synagogue, Jesus entered the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. Simon's mother-in-law lay sick with a fever. They immediately told him about her. He approached, grasped her hand, and helped her up. Then the fever left her, and she waited on them. When it was evening, after sunset, they brought to him all who were ill or possessed by demons. The whole town was gathered at the door. He cured many who were sick with various diseases, and he drove out many demons, not permitting them to speak because they knew him. Rising very early, before dawn, he left and went off to a deserted place where he prayed. Simon and those who were with him pursued him, and on finding him, said, "Everyone is looking for you." He told them, "Let us go on to the nearby villages, that I may preach there also. For this purpose have I come." So we went into their synagogues, preaching and driving out demons throughout the whole of Galilee. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Gatorade and Powerade are drinks for athletes. They purport to give athletes the needed hydration and boost they need to carry on their athletic duties. If you see a TV commercial advertising Gatorade or Powerade or any of these kind of drinks, they'll show a lot of sweat, a lot of jumping, running, throwing, lifting, you name it. And then there's always a pause where they're guzzling Gatorade or Powerade. Sometimes they have the commercial where it sort of has some, I'm sure, computer-generated image of the person drinking the stuff, and you sort of see their interior, and as they drink it, they sort of light up inside, you know. Not sure exactly if that's how it works. But the image is very clear, though. These drinks help one do the stuff that they want to do. In today's gospel, we see Jesus doing the works of the kingdom, healing, delivering, teaching. But we also see him praying. In a sense, like Gatorade and Powerade, he has to be refreshed, replenished, filled anew. And he reminds us that if we're going to live the life of a disciple, we too need to nourish our interior life. We need to pray. Today's gospel gives us a wonderful glimpse in both the exterior and the interior life of Jesus. It picks up where last week's gospel left off. Jesus amazed the congregation in the synagogue by teaching with authority and commanding demonic forces, and they obeyed him. In today's gospel, Jesus leaves the synagogue and now kind of comes home with Simon, Peter, and Andrew, James, and John for kind of the Sabbath meal, only to find Simon's mother-in-law laying ill with a fever. They tell him about her, and Jesus heals her, and she serves. Beautiful model of discipleship, by the way. We who have experienced God's mercy and healing, either just by forgiveness or in any other way, are now called to serve. It's also the passage that the Venerable Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen said is the root of why Simon Peter denied knowing Jesus 3 times. Because he healed his mother-in-law. I shouldn't pass that one on. Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen is such a wonderful man. So, Jesus doing these works. The whole town shows up at the door, and Jesus continues to do these works of healing people, setting people free, I'm sure he was doing some teaching then. In a sense, this really demonstrates what God's reign is to be about. Our first reading from the book of Job may seem out of place. Speaking of, my life is as a hireling, as a slave. My heart is restless. I wait for the night to go by and it drags on. My days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle beam, and just kind of describing the lethargy and the difficulty and the apathy and the pain and illness that sometimes or oftentimes in various ways affects life. But with Jesus, we see healing and mercy and forgiveness and new life, new hope, new direction, new purpose. We're reconnected with God. We know why we're here and where we're going. And so that's why we have kind of the contrast, in a sense, between life without Christ and life with Christ. So Jesus, doing the works of the kingdom. Yet in the midst of all that, what does he do? Rising very early, before dawn, he went off to a deserted place where he prayed. Later on in the Gospel of Mark, he'll go to his hometown and they'll hear him preach, and they've heard about all these miracles, and they ask, where did he get all this stuff? Well, he got it from his heavenly Father. It was in prayer that his mind was so enlightened and filled with truth. It was in prayer that he had this zeal and desire to establish not the devil's reign, but God's reign, and to defeat the devil's reign. And it was in prayer that he really received these gifts and graces. Now we know he's God made man, the Word made flesh. But still, it's his humanity that is empowered this way to become the vehicle for God's kingdom. I think it was prayer that gave him strength to do what he did at the end of the gospel here today. It seems like a minor thing. He goes and prays. Simon and Andrew follow him, find him, and say, everyone's looking for you. In other words, Jesus, you are a hit in Capernaum. They all want you back. I think we should establish the Healing and Deliverance Tabernacle right there in Capernaum. Everybody will come to you. Jesus says, with great detachment, no, you got to go to other villages, other towns, and proclaim the gospel. He had the freedom of heart and mind to move on and continue to do God's work. We are called the body of Christ, St. Paul's beautiful image. And that means that, some of us are hands, some of us are feet, some of us are eyes, some of us are ears, some of us are the voice. We are to be the instruments by which God's reign is made known on the earth today. Some people have, like Jesus, gifts of healing, perhaps in the medical field, perhaps by simply praying for the sick. Others are teachers like Jesus. Many are teachers like Jesus, either in a school or in the PSR program here, or if you're a parent, you're a teacher. It's simple, it comes with the job. It may not be in a formal way, but parents and pastors are always about teaching, by example and by word. There's some here who are involved in the deliverance ministry. Maybe not so much in a formal way, through prayer, delivering individuals from demonic influences, but somehow bringing the truth and the beauty and the goodness of God to our culture that is infected by lies and confusion, by a certain ugliness and baseness, where we bring light and goodness and holiness into those areas. So it could be in your workplace, it could be in your neighborhood, it could be anywhere. We are bringing the light of God's reign where there is the darkness, confusion, and pain of the enemy's reign. That's all part of the deliverance, in a sense, ministry. So all of us, with our many gifts and talents, are about carrying on the works of Jesus. But what do we need to do? We need to pray too. We need to connect with the Lord also, if we're going to be effective. I have a habit of praying every day. It's a good habit. But I know that in spite of, in a sense, those years of having this habit, there are times where it's hard to pray. Other things seem so important, so pressing. Yet if I really believe what I'm saying now, I know that my efforts without prayer will be fruitless. I need to pray. We need to pray. If we're going to be the hands, the feet, the eyes, the ears, the mouth of Jesus. St. Francis de Sales was a bishop of Geneva in Switzerland in the early 17th century. And among other things, he was known for really instructing the laity in living a devout life. For him, that meant having people pray and stay connected with Jesus outside of a monastic setting where you will not be distracted by many different things. St. Francis was a teacher about those who had kind of busy lives. Those who were mothers and fathers, those who worked in a shop, those who farmed, those who had a military life, those who were professionals, those who worked in the government, the king's court, or whatever. One of his sayings was this: a half an hour's meditation each day is essential, except when you're busy. Then a full hour is needed. So, the idea is we need to have this time where we center our lives on Christ, who He is, what He has done for us, what He has called us to do. We need to thank Him for our blessings, give Him our needs, offer Him our adoration, pray to live our lives reverently and justly and devoutly in His sight every day. We also need to fill our minds with truth. Here's a more modern saint, Saint Jose Maria Escriva. I'm not sure exactly when he died, but I think sometimes in the 1950s, 1960s, a Spanish saint, founder of Opus Dei. He said this: an hour of study is an hour of prayer for the modern disciple. Filling our minds with Christian ideas and truth, very important. Our culture, with its pace, with its many influences, the media and whatever, sort of evaporates our Christian mind quickly. We need to continue to fill it with that which is true, good, and beautiful from the Lord. And so I encourage you to pray. Are we busy today? Some say more than ever. Some say, no, we're not as busy as we were. And think about it. We have a lot of conveniences that other generations don't have. We don't have to fetch our water from a well or go to the river to wash our clothes. We don't have to, some of us choose to use firewood to heat our homes, but it's not a necessity. And there are other sorts of things. We have lots of conveniences that, in a sense, give us more free time. But we need to make prayer a priority. We also have a lot more distractions and hobbies than other times. Jesus perhaps gives us the best example of carving time into one's day to pray. Rising early in the morning, St. Mark records. Rising early before it was dawn. Jesus wanted to pray before anything else would distract him. He went off to a deserted place. He found some place to pray where he wouldn't be immediately interrupted. And there he communed with the Lord. I invite you to seek that time out in your own life. We have, on Tuesdays here, Adoration of the Blessed Sacrament from 8:15 in the morning, 8:45 till after Mass, till 7 in the evening. Time of just silent prayer. Come and make a visit. Wonderful. Here are a few quotes by Benjamin Franklin about time. Time lost is never found again. You delay, but time will not. Dost thou love life? Then do not squander time, for that's the stuff that life is made of. We need to invest our time in the kingdom, God's reign, doing the works that He has for us, but also in prayer. It's like Gatorade and Powerade. It refreshes and replenishes the soul. You're not sure what to do in prayer? Let that be your first prayer. Lord, teach me to pray. The apostles did. Prayer. Prayer is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Prayer is not time wasted, it's invested. Let's take time to pray. By prayer, we are strengthened to become fruitful disciples of Jesus Christ.